All right, what's going on? What's popping? What's popping? I'm going to do this one more time because I've tried to make a video on this topic two previous times, and from my end, stuff keeps fucking up. So, what I've done, I've used another computer to do this all over again. So this is this is the third time that I'm trying to make a video on this topic. I don't know what's going on, but all right. So billionaire Byron Allen is suing McDonald's for $10 billion. And he's taking McDonald's to federal court, alleging that McDonald's have discriminated against him and also violated his civil rights. Yeah, so once again, Byron Allen is taking McDonald's to federal court, suing them for $10 billion, alleging that McDonald's have practiced discrimination against him and violated his civil rights. You know, according to the court case that he opened in 2021, Allen alleged that McDonald's have ran have spent less advertisement dollars on his cable stations that he owns than they normally do on other televisions or cable stations that are traditionally white owned. And on Allen's side, he claims that that's discrimination because his stations are because he's African Americans. Now, because he's an African American and his cable stations is African American owned. Now, for those of you who don't know, Byron Allen owns a slew of cable stations. Now, a lot of people know that or aware that he's the owner of the Weather Channel, which he is, but he also owns a slew of other cable stations after that. Now, if you don't know Byron Allen's history, or if you forgot about his history, Byron, a few years ago, sued Comcast, the cable provider, for not providing his cable stations on their cable platform. And then he took Comcast to federal court, alleging that Comcast practiced discrimination against him for purposely not allowing his cable stations to run on their platform due to the fact that basically his channels are owned by an African American, which is him, and alleged that these companies were trying to marginalize him. Now, initially, Byron Allen won that court case against Comcast, but Comcast made an appeal, filed an appeal, and the higher courts of the federal courts heard the appeal and sided with Comcast. So ultimately, Byron Allen lost that case and Comcast won. Or the initial decision was overturned and Comcast ended up winning that case. Thus, Byron Allen, like I said before, initially lost. But then in 2021, Byron Allen opened up another lawsuit, this time against McDonald's, suing them for $10 billion because, like I said, he alleged discrimination on the part of McDonald's. McDonald's, according to Byron Allen, haven't ran or refused to run as much ads on his television stations as they do on other television stations. And according to him, the main reason is because his channels are owned by him, an African American man. As a matter of fact, according to Allen's allegation, McDonald's have spent only $5 million of advertisement money on his cable stations, which is less than 2% of the total ad budget that McDonald's spend every year on advertisement. Which to me is funny because McDonald's, so-called black people comprise of 40% of McDonald's customers, but yet when it comes to media stations owned by an African American, McDonald's spent like less than 2% of their advertisement budget when it comes to advertising their ads on a platform or different stations owned by an African American, allegedly, right? But what Byron Allen is showing when it comes to his lawsuit that he filed against McDonald's, and also his prior lawsuit that he filed against Comcast, he's showing the world how even on his level, because Byron Allen is a billionaire, so even on his level, you have forces out there who are still trying to marginalize him due to the fact that he's a so-called black male and a so-called black male billionaire at that, and he's viewed as a threat. Thus, there are different forces that are keeping him marginalized. In other words, these different forces are saying, okay, you want wealth? We're not going to stop you from being wealthy, but we will stop you from being as wealthy as us. Therefore, we're going to form certain systems to make sure that you get just enough money, but not make more money for people that look like me, of the lighter shade. So that's what Byron Allen is exposing. Thus, he's putting pressure on these big time Fortune 500 companies that have made so much money off of the backs of so-called black people, but allegedly, according to Byron Allen, refuse to actually do fair or engage in fair business practices with corporations that are owned by so-called black people. And this is the things that so-called black males online need to focus on, because it shows you that institutional racism still exists. And even when it comes to when it comes to so-called black people who are on a level of wealth, they are also victims of it. And we need to come together to try to put an end to stuff like that, instead of sitting there worried about a bunch of fucking broads and shit. You know what I'm saying? If anything, if so-called black people were smart and actually worked together beyond whichever class different so-called black people or beyond, different economic classes that different so-called black people come from, regardless of if you're a so-called black male or female, regardless of age and what have you, regardless of political party or political leaning, regardless of religion and what have you, if so-called black people were a group of people who actually truly genuinely work together, we could actually put an end to these types of business practices right now. Being that 40% of McDonald's customers comprise of so-called African Americans, if black people were smart, we put our heads together and boycott buying from McDonald's. That would put so much pressure on the McDonald's corporation to the point of the fact that they'll automatically negotiate with a new contract, or negotiate for a new contract with Byron Allen's television stations at a snap of a finger. Because when you do that, you actually put McDonald's in a position where a large percentage of their revenue is at risk. But so-called black people as a group, as a collective, we don't think this way. We have this thinking that we don't have the power to do these types of things. Or a lot of us just don't give a fuck. If you had icons like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Russell Simmons, Jay Prince, people like that came together and put pressure on McDonald's and said, you know what, we're not fucking with you guys no more. And whichever endorsements that we have with you, we don't want anymore. Fuck, we're going to Burger King. We're fucking with Burger King. Since you want to diss our boy Byron Allen like that and refuse to run enough ads on his stations, we're not fucking with you no more. Imagine all these popular hip-hop stars. People like Drake. People like Drake, Megan the Male Horse, Cardi B, the Migos, all these other. Imagine if they had their minds right. Imagine if they stopped getting high, stopped getting drunk, and actually used the brain cells that the Most High gave them and put that same pressure on the McDonald's Corporation and said, you know what? We're not fucking with you ever again unless if you stop committing these discriminating or these discriminatory business practices against our brother Byron Allen and run more ads on his television stations. Unless if you do that, we're not fucking with you guys anymore. What? That will force McDonald's to negotiate a new contract with Byron Allen and his companies at a snap of a finger. But people don't think on that level, though. We're a group of people, we don't think on that level. What's going on, Dante Deshawn? What's up? What's up, Mike V? We're not a group of people that think on that level. It's like so-called black people, and it's evident when you look at so-called black people online, we think on such a mundane level. We think on this low vibration, mundane level where we're worried about some stupid shit like Umar Johnson having a debate with Cynthia G. Like, nigga, who gives a fuck about that shit? You have certain forces who are trying to, who are allegedly attempting to marginalize black-owned media companies. It's like, it's funny because on here on the internet, you have a lot of so-called black males who talk a lot about black male media, right? Or the new black media. Black media this, black media that, black media this. But you see that even on Byron Allen's level, because Byron Allen is black media, he's a black male media mogul that owns a slew of cable stations. Brother on his level is seen as a threat to certain forces, and certain groups of people is trying to marginalize him, thus trying to destroy black male media or quote unquote the new black media. But yet we don't put our minds together to try to counteract that and combat that. Instead, we focus on stupid shit like Cynthia G and Umar Johnson having some dumbass debate. This shit is dumb. So it begs me to question, do so-called black people genuinely care about the more important things that's going on in society? And I shouldn't be asking that question by now, because by now, I already know the answers to that. But I have a couple of links in the video description box that talks about the topic of discussion concerning our brother Byron Allen. I hope this time around that he actually wins this case. But the thing is, if we as a collective put our minds together to actually have our brother Byron Allen's back in order to combat this, he would not even have to go to federal court to try to get his point across. What we could do is actually boycott the shit out of McDonald's. Hell, we shouldn't even be eating that garbage anyway. A lot of that stuff is not. A lot of that stuff is not even good for our bodies to begin with. Anyhow, that's all I have to say concerning the matter. I hope this video gives some of you guys something to think about. All right, peace.